My name is Blair Imani. I'm an author and historian, and today we're going to be talking about youth activism and how to put your passions into power. I'm here with Jasmine Dellafosse. At what age did you start to get involved with your community?
I think growing up, I grew up in a really big Samoan family. So I grew up with a bunch of siblings and cousins in the same household. I learned very early on what it means, what community means. I was oftentimes the quiet one. I was I didn't speak. I let my siblings speak. I was just kind of there, just existing. I didn't get involved in the community, I would say, until I was 18 years old. When I first met Michael Tubbs, who was recently elected, I was his first intern when he was city councilman. And 6 months in the internship, I had told him that I wanted to quit. And so I had sent him a text message. I said, thank you for this opportunity, but it wasn't for me. And he asked me, the day after, hey, do you want to go to Tennessee for this all expense paid trip for a week? And I was like, well, did you get my text? I just quit. He's like, go. And I was like, okay. So I went to this trip and it forever changed my life. I met civil rights leaders like Miriam Edelman Wright and Reverend Jim Lawson and Otis Moss Jr. and so many other powerful leaders of the civil rights movement. I had no idea what governance meant when I first began working out here. I had no idea what the mayor did, what the city council member did, what a board of trustee did. All I knew was that I was going to get out and do something. And I started by cleaning up the parks. I started by bringing forth parents to just start a literacy program.
It just reminds me of folks like Ella Baker, who absolutely believed that young people were the future. She was very adamant that the elders can support, but only when the young people ask. And I think that's so powerful. There was that clip of that little girl who was screaming, no justice, no peace, which is so heartwarming. But at the same time, it's like, man, like she shouldn't have to do that. So what is your position on child activism? Do we bring kids to protest? How do we broach that subject with young people? Because I think there's a lot of different schools of thought on it.
Every generation is responsible for their liberation. And when Paul Robinson said that, I think that it reminds me that there is a responsibility for every generation, but we must do our job so that babies can actually focus on growing up and thriving in their community, and so that they don't have to grow up in a community with violence, with poverty, with things that are happening in conditions that they shouldn't be growing up in. When we talk about how do we engage young people at that age to be involved, I think it's important, but I don't know, I think there's a fine line between it too.
So part of that responsibility is putting that work and putting that information into the hands of young people. But how is a young Black kid, a young Indigenous kid going to get there if they aren't told why they're in the certain conditions they are? If they're told about the oppressors and they don't learn about how the oppressed have been fighting this fight well before the civil rights movement and well into today.
These are third graders who are saying that they experience already in a lot of trauma at an early age and can articulate what injustices they've seen. We actually have ethnic studies taught in every single high school in Stockton, which was a program that we fought for very hard because we truly believe that young people deserve to learn their history and it be taught from people of color who look like them, who are from their neighborhoods, who grew up in Stockton. And so the educators who are teaching these curriculum went to the same high schools as them, who look like them. It's a responsibility for those who are older to do their job and make sure that we're holding systems and people accountable for the policies and decisions that they're making so that young people don't have to grow up in a community where they have to fight for their own.
I think about Marjory Stoneman Douglas, for example, in Florida, and how the mass shooting there really shook a lot of people who came from places of privilege, upwardly mobile folks, wealthy folks, white folks, into understanding the gun violence conversation. And I really commend the students there, like Emma Gonzalez, who didn't just say, we're going to take over the conversation now, but they instead went to students in Chicago to converse with them and uplift the work that they were already doing. How do we disabuse people of this idea that, this is a race issue and this isn't an issue for my young Timothy?
The fact that we have these conversations of the haves and the have-nots and those who, are suffering and those who are not suffering, the fact is that every single day children are waking up in conditions because of people like them who remain to be bystanders every single day. My grandmother at an early age taught us the principles of what it means to love your neighbor, to care for somebody. And I think that people of color, we don't live in this neoliberals like neoliberal, like individual, like state of mind. Like people of color, like we thrive on collectivism. Like we understand what it means to take care of one another. And I think oftentimes like those who are maybe non like people of color like maybe just don't understand that concept. Like we don't just live in a world where we care about just our family and our neighborhood and my neighbor to the left or the next affluent neighborhood. Like we care about everybody regardless of your race, regardless of your status, your gender, your income, that we really believe in the value of just loving one person. And I think that when you do that, you can be so much far better and live in a community that you should be living in.
Stockton, for example, has streets that are still named after Confederate folks. There's still a presence of the KKK. A lot of folks who are watching this film, a lot of folks who are listening into this, might think that California is one of the areas a safe haven from racism. But as we both know, racism is everywhere. What has your work looked like in terms of making people aware of these facts? And what wins look like in changing this?
In the city of Stockton, we have 2 state youth prisons. We have a juvenile detention center, and we have a juvenile camp, and we have a county jail. Our city is surrounded with jails, with prisons. Stockton is one of 21 school districts across the state of California that actually pays the school district pays for a law enforcement department. You know, we've had enough of these zero tolerance policies that have been criminalizing Black and brown students for far too long. We have a responsibility to come back into our neighborhoods, into our communities, to change what is happening.
So what are some resources that you have for parents and for educators that go beyond the status quo?
There's 2 things that we can do right now in this moment is 1, to register to vote if you can. Number 2 is to complete the census. That will bring in, funding into our public schools and that would be able to, understand how many legislators we can have in the state of California. But also continue to be sure that everyone is counted, and it's important for us to just do our part. So there's ways that you can just actively be involved. There's a role for everybody. There's a lane for everybody. You don't have to be at the front of a protest. You don't have to be the teacher in front of the classroom. Donate your talents and skills, whether you're an artist or if you're a singer or an actor or a writer. Finding your gifts and talents are a way for you to show up for your community. Use your resources, your gifts and talents with everyone around you as much as you can.
You and Mayor Tubbs exemplify the fact that you can just take action. Like you said, everybody has a lane. We can all participate in this work. And in fact, we'll get free and we'll reach liberation a lot faster if everyone is participating. So thank you so much. Right.
Thank you. And thank you for donating your books to our community. I can't wait to see how we get this out. So thank you.